Hmm. Okay, my camera's not working. Oh, because I've not got my camera on. That's why it's not working. Okay, now it's working. Okay, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravad Chaline Nivasisha Sunyavari Pashtatari Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, so Modiba is coming in. Hare Krishna. So let's get straight into the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13. Hare Krishna. Devotees have just joined us. Hare Krishna. So I had it ready beforehand. So here we go. Hare Krishna. And last week we read up to, as you correctly said, Mother Rajkishore, we read up to this section here, which is tolerance. Yes. And then we can pick up from here then on simplicity. Okay. So yeah, before I begin, do you remember anything from last week? Any points that we made last week that carried through for you?
Like we have to tolerate everything and anything that Krishna gives, like a slave.
Like a slave? Like a?
A slave. I think that's not what you meant, slave.
No, a blade of grass.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I understood as
Like a
slave.
blade
It's
of
a
grass.
blade of
Yeah.
grass.
No, like a blade of grass. Yeah. And I think Mother Chandravali, she asked, is there any limit to how tolerant we should be? And I think the answer, no. There is no limit. It's unlimited. We have to tolerate everything that is, yeah, tolerates so much injustice, tolerates so much so-called wrongdoing. There's this Christian preaching phrase, which is quite interesting. It's called um, God is telling me to keep my mouth shut. That means means when we always want to defend ourselves, we always want to you know put things right if we've been misunderstood. But sometimes the easy sometimes it's best to just to keep quiet because ultimately Krishna's the judge. Krishna knows what's going on. Krishna knows what's not going on. Better sometimes it's better for us rather than us try to fix everything is just to learn this simple thing of tolerance. And sometimes it takes on the form of keeping the mouth shut.
Prabhu, can I add something?
Yes, please, Mother Jamava.
What I want to say that there is Kala Deshapatra place,
Time, place, and
circumstances, and time.
circumstance.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's to what extent we can keep tolerant. Yeah, if, for example, a work, yeah, workplace. If we can't tolerate that environment and that relationship of colleagues, we can leave if we can. We don't have to stay and suffer and torture yourself. If we can live, we can live. But if we cannot live, it means Krishna's plan, we have to learn a lesson and to get some qualities. And when the test is finished, then Krishna will remove all obstacles. But in every situation, that situation is given for us to learn something unless we
Yeah.
do so. This is about tolerance. Of course it has limits. It has limits, but we have to evaluate it and we have to measure what situation, what will achieve.
Yeah, that's correct. But I thought I would just good to focus sometimes on this aspect of tolerance. And sometimes it might be best just to keep quiet. Of course, according to time, place, and circumstance. But sometimes I think we don't emphasize that aspect enough, you know, just to.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, yeah.
So
Because
it's
people
worth bringing
sometimes,
it.
oh, sorry.
So it's worth bringing it out for us to remember that it might be easier, even if we've been wronged or even if we've been misunderstood. The path for us, it might be easier just to keep quiet and put faith in Krishna. So sometimes that may be the way to go. But so sometimes it's good to emphasize that. But your point is also correct.
Yes, but because if we cannot tolerate and we change, we leave because our ego is unsatisfied or affected, it means we didn't learn the lesson. And we leave that environment and we get another environment and the same lesson repeats.
Yeah,
So it means we didn't learn the lesson. We have to measure very heavy. Why can't I tolerate? Why? Does it affect my ego? Or I have to learn a lesson? So
yeah,
this is, yeah, we have to evaluate.
yeah. Thank you. Very good points. Thank you, Mother Jamavati. Right, so we'll continue reading about simplicity. You can see here on the screen. Anyone want to pick it up from here? Simplicity.
I can do it.
Go ahead, Mother. Go ahead.
Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be so straightforward that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. As for acceptance of spiritual master, that is essential because without instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress in the spiritual science. One should approach the spiritual master with all humility and offer him all services so that he will be pleased to bestow his blessings upon the disciple. Because a bona fide spiritual master is representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessing upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advanced without the disciples following the regulative principles. Or the regulative principles will be easier for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation.
Okay, thank you. Let's just pause there. Now, any immediate questions here from this paragraph? Now, let me just go back to the beginning of this purport. Well, it's not far, it's just up on the left. So these important points that Prabhupada makes out, explains in the beginning of the purport, and he mentions about the spiritual master, like here. He mentions this. The principle of accepting the spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8th verse, so now Prabhupada's speaking about that, is essential. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is most important. So transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. So he mentions that in the beginning, and now he's actually explaining it more. Before that, it's mentioned about
Yeah.
simplicity.
Oh,
Go on, carry on, Mother.
sorry. I was just thinking. I find this definition of simplicity quite unusual because for me, simplicity means like minimizing your needs.
Yeah, simply living, I think.
Rather than simplicity here means being able to speak straightforwardly the truth.
Yeah, it means the opposite of kutinati. Kutinati means being duplicitous.
Okay.
So it's referring to that. A Vaishnava is not duplicitous. They're very, yeah, they are not crooked, whereas materialistic persons are crooked and very duplicitous. That's not good for a Vaishnava. And I just we have some quotes on this as a matter of fact. So I'll read a couple. Kutinati or diplomatic behavior cannot satisfy the Atma. Someone needs to mute out there. Who's that needs to mute?
Anup, can you mute? Anup.
1 second. Wow, silence. Okay. Kutinata or diplomatic behavior cannot satisfy the Atma, the soul. It cannot even satisfy the body or the mind. The culprit mind is always suspicious. Therefore, our dealings should always be straightforward and approved by Vedic authorities. If we treat people diplomatically or duplicitously, our spiritual advancement is obstructed. So Prabhupada mentions the same here. Well, he mentions, yeah, no, he doesn't mention that detail, but simplicity means without duplicity, without diplomacy, one should be straightforward. He can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. And yeah. So this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's a lecture that Prabhupada gave in 1971. So that kind of Panditji not wanted. Actually, a Brahmana means he is truthful. And one of the greatest commentator of Bhagavad Gita, Baladev Vijayabhushana, he says truthful means one should be truthful even to his enemies. Sometimes we have to hide something from the enemies. That is diplomacy. But Baladev Vijayabhushana says a Brahmana should be so truthful that he will disclose everything to his enemy also. Satyam. Then he gets Tatiksha Ajavam Suchi Shamadama. So Samadama Stapashocham Shanti Ajavam Evacha. 1842. These are the qualifications. Gyanam, Vigyanam, Ashtikam, Brahma, Kama, Sabhavajam. So that's something to meditate upon, that even to an enemy, you should reveal the truth. Again, there is stories as well. We hear the story of a bunch some dacoits who were chasing someone in order to rob and kill him. And one sadhu had made a vow of truthfulness, you know. And this man, he was running for his life, and he hid in a certain place. And the dacoits came and asked where he was hiding, because he made this vow of always speaking the truth. Then he told them where he was. Man was then consequently robbed and killed. So that Brahmin had to go to hell. So again, the general principle is, but there may be some situations, where you may have to be, when in a material world, sometimes even devotees may have to be a bit, somewhat diplomatic. Like, for example, sometimes on book distribution in the past, a policeman will come up to me and say, "Are you collecting money?" And I'm collecting money all day. That's what I'm saying to people when I'm stopping them. "Please, can you give me some money?" Then I give them a book after. That was one way we used to do it. But when the police would come up and say, "Are you collecting money?" No. Some people give a donation, but we don't ask for donations because we're monks. People know, and then they come and they give us a donation. But it's not true. It's asking for money all day. Every person we stop, we would ask money. So, for the sake of the Sankirtan movement, for the spreading of Krishna consciousness, sometimes even devotees have to be a little bit diplomatic in this material world. And that you can see also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When is it? When Sanatana Goswami was in prison? Was it Sanatana Goswami? Who was it who was in prison?
Yeah.
And he had to kind of bribe and speak sweetly with the prison guard and be quite diplomatic so that he could get freed from prison. And Prabhupada mentions there that sometimes even a devotee in this world has to be a little bit diplomatic. But the general principle should be we should want to be straightforward in our dealings. That is a Brahmana. Yeah. Anything else on this?
I was thinking all these qualities you can see in different devotees, like
Which one? The good ones?
well, some are humble, some tolerate, some,
Yes, yes,
play. You can see these qualities in devotees,
yes, yes.
It's really like they stand out, how they speak, how they deal with things,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really how we can learn, really, when we see someone who actually embodies humility, someone who embodies simplicity. It really has an effect. It really creates an impression, sometimes more than reading, you know. Like I have that when I would have some interaction with Pankaj before he left the world, or Jananivas. They're so simple. They're so pure-hearted and simple, And when you get to see it, when you get to see Vaishnavas embody that, and it's really then you become really inspired by it. You can see it. So it's a good point Mother Chandravali's bringing out. Like we can read about it here in the Bhagavad Gita, but when we see it in Vaishnavas, and we should be like swans as well. We should want to see these things in devotees.
Like
Yeah, go on.
sometimes you're talking to a devotee and you've got this idea in your head, you're talking about something, and they come out with so positive words that all your own thoughts have gone, and you feel, why didn't I think like that? Why didn't I speak like that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you see these things in devotees
Yeah.
dealing with.
And that's Krishna consciousness. Yeah, Krishna consciousness is always positive. So if someone who's Krishna conscious, they can help to see things in a more kind of encouraging light. Yeah. Yeah, good point. All right, anything else here? I mentioned about this. Okay, we can read on. Mentioned about the bona fide spiritual master, representative of Krishna. Okay, we're all familiar with these points. What about this point? Anyone can explain this for us? What does it mean here? I'll just highlight this section. If he bestows any blessings upon his disciple, that will make the disciple immediately advanced without the disciples following the regulative principles. Anyone could expand upon this?
I look at that sentence and my mind goes to how Lord Nrsimhadev put his hand on Prahlad Maharaj and how he just came out with all these beautiful prayers that he was offering to Lord Nrsimhadev. Because I read that in the purport, That's why my thought just went to that, how without knowing you can develop all this good quality by the mercy of your spiritual master.
Yeah, without following the stringent regulative principles.
Yeah.
Which we should follow the regulative principles. But nice example he gave of Prahlad Maharaj. Lord Nrsimha became so affectionate to Prahlad that he gave him all blessings. So
What about the early disciples who came to Srila Prabhupada? They suddenly stopped illicit sex and smoking and drinking and drugs.
drug intoxication.
Yes.
And by assisting and serving Prabhupada, they actually made great advancement.
Yes.
So we should follow the regulative principles, obviously. We have our regulative principles, but our principles are rising early and in hearing and chanting. But the blessings of the Guru is very powerful. That one can make great advancement over and above the following of the regulative principles. By following the regulative principles, as ordered by the spiritual master, one can make advancement. But when the spiritual master specifically bestows his blessings upon the disciple, it's like we get pushed up the ladder, so to speak. We get we kind of make a lot of advancement very quickly, because of pleasing the Vaishnava, where otherwise we might not have made so much one might not make so quick and rapid advancement without the blessing of the Vaishnavas. But when the Vaishnavas are pleased with someone, one can make great advancement. Yeah. Or the regular principles will be a lot easier. So Prabhupada then says, yeah, things will become a lot easier with the blessings of the Guru. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons we accept initiation from the Guru, to make things a lot easier. Otherwise, spiritual life is very difficult without the spiritual master.
So Prabhu, I don't know if you see this as connected or not, but would George Harrison be considered a disciple even though he wasn't initiated? Because Prabhupada was so fond of him, he called him like his son, I think, or something.
Harry's son. Harry's son.
Yeah.
Harry's son. Of course, yeah. He would have
He got a lot of blessings because he did big service.
Yeah, that's a good example of exactly what we're bringing out here. He wasn't a regular devotee, Mongaladi, and living in the ashram and saffron roads, etc. But no doubt he got great blessings from Prabhupada. And it's one thing if I could ask Krishna, one of the questions I would ask is, where is George Harrison now? What is he doing? What great benefit did he get for doing so much wonderful service, Yeah, for sure. That's a good example you can give. There's an example of George Harrison, who no doubt got so much mercy from the Guru without following the regulative principles of, the regular devotee at the time, Yeah. Yeah, such is the power of the spiritual master. All right. Any other questions or points on this? Simplicity and approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Yeah. And the next paragraph, so I'd like to read this one. Cleanliness.
I can read.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I find it. Okay. Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath, but for internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
This process cleans the accumulated dust of fast from the mind.
Okay, sorry to keep stopping, but
No, it's good.
I just want to go back on this point, because sometimes this is a point that we bring up in our Pujari teaching each year in Mayapur. Sometimes we might miss it. But see what Prabhupada is saying here? Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. So if you're not clean, you're not going to make advancement in spiritual life. Yeah. So although obviously there's external and internal, but Prabhupada's not making a distinction here. He's saying both are needed to make advancement in spiritual life. So that's why Srila Prabhupada, in regards especially to worshipping the Lord, he mentioned cleanliness and punctuality. So just keep that in mind. The place where you live and your environment where you're in, we want to keep it clean. Why? Because we want to make advancement in spiritual life. Like today, I cleaned my ashram, and I read this just beforehand. Okay, how can I make advancement today? I know I can clean my ashram. I can clean the floor. It's Krishna's ashram. I can clean the sides. I can clean, and that's going to help me advance in spiritual life. Of course, don't forget the internal cleanliness, chanting Hare Krishna. All right, just want to make that point.
External cleanliness, it's also to me like say when you're doing service in the pujaris, how externally you keep your clothes clean, how every detail of is very important. Though you think, okay, it doesn't matter, I wore this sari last night, I'll wear it or whatever, but every little detail is so important to make progress. You can see from this sentence.
Yeah, especially for deity worship, then we need to be pujari clean.
Yeah, really clean.
Yeah, like the last few times I've been dressing Radha Krishna, then when I'm getting Radha Krishna's jewelry together, or as in before, I would just get the jewelry out and just put it on the tray, any old how, and just take everything down and then find But now what I'm trying to do is I'm making it neat. I take the jewelry out and I lay it neatly and nicely, So you understand? When I take the jewelry down, it's all neat on the tray. It's not just a big bundle. A small thing and also when I take extra flowers down for Radha Krishna, then I used to just pick flowers and put them all in the bowl. But now I place them really neatly. So they're really neat. So when I go down, I can see them, and it's a lot better for the consciousness, And everything can be expression of devotion. So when you're taking the jewelry out, for example, we might have your deities at home. You're laying everything down on the tray nicely, or arranging the flowers nicely as you take them down. Cleanliness and neatliness, etc.
Because I also see, like, even in the ashrams when devotees come, they have shower and that, and they're changing, and they quite often go so near the bed, they touch the bed, or sometimes they put the sari on there. I just feel, wish I could say everything to them, that
Wait, surely
how dirty the bed is, And
I think you would. I think you have the position and the authority as a senior Mataji, that you can give them some loving direction, or you shouldn't put it there, mother.
She's not going to do near a bed or anything like that. You should be so careful. That's cleanliness. That means your consciousness. That's what I mean. That you're conscious of you are doing a pujari service for Krishna,
That's it. And cleanliness is next to
Godliness.
godliness. Prabhupada say that. Yeah. Internal and external. And if the place is externally clean, it helps us to be clean internally. And internally clean means we should be inspired to keep things clean externally. Yeah. Okay. So it's an item of knowledge. Cleanliness is there, one of the items of knowledge. All right, you can continue reading, Mother, if you want. That was a short paragraph. We're steadiness now.
Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without self-determination, one cannot make tangible progress. And self-control means that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. One should become accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress. This is real renunciation. The senses are so strong that they are always anxious to have sense gratification. One should not cater to these demands, which are not necessary. The senses should only be gratified to keep the body fit so that one can discharge his duty in advancing in spiritual life. The most important and uncontrollable sense is the tongue. If one can control the tongue, then there is every possibility of controlling the other senses. The function of the tongue is to taste and to vibrate. Therefore, by systematic regulation, the tongue should always be engaged in tasting the remnants of foodstuff offered to Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna. As far as the eyes are concerned, they should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of Krishna. That will control the eyes. Similarly, the ear should be engaged in hearing about Krishna, and the nose in smelling the flowers offered to Krishna. This is the process of devotional service, and it is understood here that Bhagavad Gita is simply expounding the science of devotional service. Devotional service is the main and sole objective. Unintelligent commentators on the Bhagavad Gita try to divert the mind of the reader to other subjects, but there is no other subject in Bhagavad Gita than devotional service.
Okay. So any questions or comments here? Steadiness. Srila Prabhupada seems to be paraphrasing Maharaj Ambarish, Savai Mana Krishna Pada Vindayo, Vajasabakuntu Gunanavadane. And he quotes that these verses, these 3 verses describing about Maharaj Ambarish engaged all of his senses in the service of the Lord. I think he quotes it 2 times in Bhagavad Gita. So Savai Mana Krishna Pada Vindayo, his mind was always engaged in the lotus feet of Krishna, cleaning the temple, embracing the devotees, smelling the flowers offered to the Lord, cleansing the temple, going to the temple, meditating upon the Lord, or all types of desires within his mind to serve the Lord, etc. Okay, so that's our challenge. The material world wants us to not do this. The material world does not want us to focus on Krishna. There's so many thousands of distractions, millions of distractions that the material world offers, so it's a bit of a challenge, but yeah. Like, for example, Prabhupada said here, the eye should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of Krishna. All right, so like, how do you do that? So like, how can we do that?
We can, well, I've been going on about that for a while now, that we try to see Krishna. There again, when I was reading that Prahlad Maharaj's, that purport, then Hiranyakashipu says to Prahlad Maharaj, is your God in the pillar? Because Prahlad Maharaj can see Krishna everywhere. So he just said, yes.
Yeah, but yeah.
So,
yep.
So what we've got to try, I mean, I'm struggling. I'm working on this. Like, we have to try to see Krishna in everything. So when you talking to somebody or doing anything, you try and extract Krishna. Like the other day I was thinking, okay, this super soul sitting in a beautiful throne, shiny, and then this chakra thing going round, his head. I was like, how can you see that form in everybody, in their chest,
Yeah.
I just I'm just thinking, I need to practice on this,
Yeah. So trying means sadhana bhakti, means vaidhi bhakti. Means you're trying. It doesn't come naturally. You have to try to do it, So what is it that Prahlad had that he could see Krishna everywhere?
He was chanting and hearing.
Yeah, but his eyes were tinged with what?
Love for Krishna.
Yeah, love for Krishna. That's it. His eyes were tinged with the love for the Lord, so he could naturally see his Lord manifest everywhere. But that's how we start. That's where we start, that we follow this principle that a devotee, a pure devotee, a very advanced devotee sees Krishna everywhere. So we would also like to do that, and we read about that, and then we try to do it. And then it will become natural. At some point, it will become natural based on the affection and love that we have with Krishna. We will see him. We will see everything in the world will remind us of him, of the beautiful form of Krishna. But it's interesting, Prabhupada says, one should not be allowed. This is Prabhupada's, because we use Bhav, this is his Prabhupada's ecstasy, you could say. You shouldn't even be allowed to see anything but Krishna. You shouldn't be allowed. You understand Mr. Prabhupada's mood of spontaneous loving devotion? You shouldn't even be allowed to see anything else but Krishna. So ultimately, oh, as Chandravali, and then it's Chandravali Maharaj. I mean, just Mama Chandravali said.
I tell you, I just give you an example. I went to this anniversary party.
Oh,
And
Mr. Agarwal.
Anyway, please take it out. I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah,
But when
yeah.
you take it out, please take it out. And then the wife gave she had written everything really nicely and a really full description of what their life is,
Yeah.
and what would she like. And for because we are in Krishna conscious, you try and analyze it. And I was thinking, she was saying that how beautiful it was. They used to play, giving a material example, they used to play Ludo, snakes and ladder and all that early days, and how families grown up and how she can tolerate his anger. So from there on, I was working out that she put up with a lot for where he is, bringing up kids, running the family,
Yeah,
traveling everywhere.
yeah.
This is my thoughts on all the things that she was talking. And then she was saying that what great times she had. And she would love to go back to just them playing Ludo again together. So then I was using that into my Krishna conscious, that all this money, all this fame, traveling here, doing all these things, it didn't, at the end, it's not worth it, is it? At the end, you are still feeling sad that you want to be with your husband the way it was before, and
I understand, yes. So
yeah,
she,
you know what I mean? The whole thing
yeah.
she said, I was just thinking, what's the point? Just being Krishna conscious is so nicer for living simple life. And
Yeah, that's a good point. That devotees, we don't want to aspire to go back. We want to
yeah,
aspire to go forward. So good point you're making. She's a pious person, but she may not be a sadhaka. She's a wonderful soul.
yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah,
this is
so as
my,
devotees, it's a good observation you made that, we shouldn't be romanticizing of starting the whole thing again.
yeah.
Otherwise, we will start the whole thing again in the next life. Better we romanticize and envision serving Radha and Krishna in the groves of Vrindavan. That's the type of thing we should be,
Funny, I got a chance to preach to her, and I said that
all right.
you had everything in life now, and now you're coming to a point when you say you want to be together and do something. So now you should sort of hand over your business slowly to your children and things like that. Stand back and watch them work. They might make mistakes, but you stay there, but you kind of move out, I was just preaching. And
Nice. Yeah, tell her she should move in the ashram, in the ladies' ashram.
somehow that I got a chance to preach to her. So I thought, let's make the most of it,
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is Krishna conscious intelligence, in the world and seeing the Krishna conscious purple, great example.
Because at this age, he bought that, I don't know what age, but he bought that lakes, riverside thing with so I mean, wind down. You're such a good devotee, okay. But it's good to wind down, pass it over, and get some Krishna conscious, But anyway, this is my thoughts anyway.
All right. Anyway, yeah. They don't share the same, they don't have the same, kind of not on the same path as the devotees exactly. All right. Anybody else like to add any more points on this? Otherwise, we can read about our favorite subject, the false ego. Anyone else like to read?
Yeah, I can read.
Yeah.
False ego. False ego means accepting this body as oneself, When one understands that he is not his body and his spirit soul, he comes to his real ego. Ego is there. False ego is condemned, but not real ego. In Vedic literature, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 1.4.10, it is said, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am spirit. This I am, the sense of self, also exists in the liberated stage of self-realization. This sense of I am is ego, but when the sense of I am is applied to the false body, it is false ego. When the sense of self is applied to reality, that is real ego. There are some philosophers who say that we should give up our ego, but we cannot give up our ego because ego means identity. We ought, of course, to give up the false identification with the body. One should try to understand the distress of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease. There are descriptions in various Vedic literatures of birth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the world of the unborn, the child's stay in the womb of the mother, its suffering, etc., are all very graphically described. It should be thoroughly understood that birth is distressful because we forget how much distress we have suffered within the womb of the mother. We do not make any solution to the repetition of birth and death. Similarly, at the time of death, there are all kinds of sufferings, and they are also mentioned in the authoritative scriptures. These should be discussed, and as far as disease and old age is concerned, everyone gets practical experience. No one wants to be diseased, and no one wants to become old, but there is no avoiding these. Unless we have a pessimistic view of this material life, considering the distresses of birth, death, old age, and disease, there is no impetus for our making advancement in spiritual life.
Okay, just pause there for a minute. So this is Janma Mrityu Jya Vyadi Dokotosham Darshanam. Yeah. So any questions about this? False ego, misidentification of the body as oneself. It's a big mistake to make. Yeah. You're actually making a grave mistake to the soul to identify oneself with the temporary material body. And that is the whole foundation of material life. Yeah. Everything stems from that false identification. That's why Prabhupada emphasized this a lot. Try and wake us up. We are not these bodies. So you're doing this. It's a grave mistake to misidentify ourselves as being something that's gonna rot, decompose, and eventually get burnt. And if we identify with it, we're gonna that makes material life very even more and more. To that degree, we identify with the body and everything connected to it. To that degree, we're gonna suffer in this world, especially when it comes to Janma Mrityu Jaya Vyadi. Yes. All right. So we do have a real sense, I am the servant of Krishna. We are not these bodies. All right. And if you want to, this is in the third canto, what Prabhupada speaks of here. This is third canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, teachings to Lord Kapila. Gives quite a graphic description there, so you can read. He speaks about he's not just in Bhagavatam, it's in the Vedas, but specifically it's being mentioned in the Bhagavatam in teachings of Lord Kapila. Very graphic. Do you remember we showed that video? Do you remember we showed that video of
You did, yeah.
quite a hard-hitting video of what goes on within the womb? I think it might have been at this point in this verse, in this chapter, because we went over this last time. I think this is why I played that video. But anyway, any questions on this? One should try to understand. So that means a sadhana. That's part of spiritual life. Even if it may not be apparent, we have to understand the distress of accepting birth, and consequently death. and old age and disease. We have to understand it. And Prabhupada says that, yeah, unless we have a pessimistic view of this material life, considering the distress of birth, death, old age, and disease, there is no impetus for us making advancement in a spiritual life. Yeah. So that's more homework we got. We have to meditate on this. I think Ishopanishad describes, I've got it right here, 1 second. There's a verse in that regards. Anyone know what verse I'm going to quote? Do you know it, Maharaj Kishore?
No.
Okay, four. Okay, I had it on hand. Okay. I might have to just try paraphrase it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, here it is. This is mantra 11 from the Ishopanishad. Vidyam cha vidyam yas cha yas tat vidhopyam saha avidyaya mityam tiyata vidyayamritam ashnute. Only one who can learn the process of nescience. So this is the process of nescience. We have to learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy full blessings of immortality. So yes, we learn about the spiritual world, we learn about Krishna, etc. But we also have to wake up to the awkward position that we are in the material world. That's what Krishna is saying here, and that is knowledge. Yeah, we have to learn the process of nescience. I mean, that's why there is quite some graphic descriptions in the Srimad Bhagavatam of the miseries of material existence. Yeah, because it's good for a sadhaka. It helps the sadhaka to be steady. Yeah, not to get distracted. Yeah. What is it like? Description of the hellish planets. That's quite a wake up. You know, the results of adverse fruitive activities or of karmic activities. Yeah, so who is it? Prithu tells a story where as a young man before he joined Krishna consciousness, he was very pessimistic. He couldn't enjoy any parties because as far as he's concerned, it's all pointless because we're all gonna die. This was before he came to Krishna consciousness. So he was a bit of a, so he wasn't much wanted around parties. He's like, he was like a young teenager going through a philosophical, he was getting right into it about the pointless of material existence. It's pointless. It's all pointless. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die. And in this way, he was, you know, he kind of he was losing a few friends, And then he met a devotee, whether he went to the temple or not, I can't remember, but he met a devotee and he said, "What's the point? There's no point in anything. We're all gonna die, we're all gonna die." And the devotees went, "Hari Bol! Hari Bol, you're a realized soul, well done." So devotees loved it, that he come to this conclusion that we're all gonna die, so there's no point in material life. He describes it. So then he was very happy. He found people he could relate to and that they could relate to him. you know. Okay. Of course, we don't go around, literally, we're all gonna die, we're all gonna die. We interact in life, but we understand. We should understand. It's gonna be a surprise. Like one friend of mine, he was at class. He he came to class at Srimad Bhagavatam. He goes back many, many years. He was living in a temple in the 90s, South American. And his phone rang during class. and it rang and rang and rang as one of those, you know. Then eventually he realized it was his phone, and he went out and he went out the class. And then after class, he came back in, hysterically crying. That phone call was a message to say that his father had just died, you know. And for the first few minutes, he was hysterical, you know. So I was there, and he came in, and I put my arm around him, and I reminded him that your father hasn't died; he's just passed on. And he quickly pulled himself together, you know. It didn't take much. He kind of got himself together a bit. Still, he was still affected. But anyway, I was thinking this is the yeah, especially in temple, you see lots of when. Sorry, I'm going on a bit here, but in the temple, it's good sadhana in the sense of coming to terms with death, because like every day someone's sponsoring something because someone's died. It's like part of temple life. Every day you're hearing about someone's died. There's a poster up. There's this, that. It's good. You know, it can be a good reminder, just in case we forget. Anyway, any other comments on this or question?
I saw three elderly people recently. One was my sister's mother-in-law, 100. She celebrated
100, wow.
birthday.
Very well.
With like queen and kings, everything, whatever. And then I went to Rishikesh's aunt's 94.
Wow.
But, you know, out of all three, I just realized how Krishna is so merciful to us to bring us to this Krishna conscious. Because all of them, they just whinge about the life, whinge about their children, whinge about this, that, everything, you know. They've seen everything and how nobody cares and this and that. Instead of using that time in either chanting, reading, hearing, you know?
Yeah, it's a great shame. Sometimes people get to the age and they're very embittered.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
very
luckily my
negative
mother is
can be.
pretty peaceful and does quite a bit, but still the others, you know, you could do so much at that time to really get out. And there's so many people out there, especially old people, and there's nobody to show them the path, or they don't want to see the path because they can practice it from the beginning.
That was a very point when Prabhupada would see retired persons, he would feel very compassionate for them. One time we saw some old age pensioners playing golf. I think tears were coming from his eyes when that's part of life should be dedicated to preparation for leaving the world and entering the spiritual realm. But they're playing golf. So Prabhupada. They're trying to put a ball in a hole. You know, that's their goal in life. Their goal in life at the end of life is to put a ball in a hole. You know, nothing, no spiritual sense whatsoever. All
I
right.
only took the
Go on.
Mangalati sweets and garlands. What else can you do?
Yeah. Right. Any other comments on this here? It's 50.
Oh yes. Okay. To change.
Well, let's see. 1 second. Any other comments on this here? Otherwise, we can stop recording. Yes. Let me just read this sentence, this paragraph, because I want to try and make some headway here. So we've got 5 minutes. As for detachment from children, wife, and home, it is not meant that one should have no feeling for these. Oh, yeah, so don't forget this point. Yeah, they are natural objects of affection. But when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, one should not be attached to them. All right, so you can all meditate upon that. The best process for making a home pleasant is Krishna consciousness. If one is in full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy, because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. One need only chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Accept the remnants of foodstuff of the Krishna. Have some discussion on books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. and engage in deity worship. These 4 things will make one happy. Okay? From my experience, there isn't many families that actually do this. But here it is. One should train the members of his family in this way. The family members can sit down morning and evening and chant together, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. One can mold his family life in this way to develop Krishna consciousness, following these 4 principles. Then there will be no need to change from family life to renounced life. Okay, interesting. But if it is not congenial, not favorable for spiritual advancement, then family life should be abandoned. One must sacrifice everything to realize or serve Krishna, just as Arjuna did. Arjuna did not want to kill his family members, but when he understood that these family members were impediments to his Krishna realization, he accepted the instruction of Krishna and fought and killed them. In all cases, one should be detached from the happiness and distress of family life, because in this world, one can never be fully happy or fully miserable. All right, so there's quite a lot we could speak on there in that paragraph, but let's pick this discussion up next week. We can pause there for now. Hare Krishna. 1 second. Pause. Stop.